It's no secret that if you wanted to buy the best sports car on the market, you bought a Porsche 911. There's a reason why its history spans over 5 decades, and now this, the 992, is the 8th generation 911, and we wanted to see whether it was still the cream of the crop, or whether it's lost some of its edge. So what's new over the 991? Well, as you can imagine, it's not too much on the surface. We have a wider body, which is 44mm wider than the previous generation, but Porsche decided to effectively get rid of the narrow body and keep with the wider 4S body, if you will, which is the 4-wheel drive. 444 horsepower, 391 pound-feet of torque from that 3-litre flat 6 twin turbo, which has come straight from the 991 generation, but from the facelift cars, which got slightly larger turbos again. There's a few chassis changes too. The dampers have been changed. This car has been optioned with the PASM as well as the sport suspension, so you get dropped by around 10mm. It also has the front axle lift, which is an option at a couple of £1,000, but it is useful, especially when going over speed bumps and using this car every day. This also has the Porsche Dynamics Chassis Control, PDCC, which stiffens up the suspension. It's not really much use on the road. It gets a bit too stiff. Now this chassis feels like it can handle another 150, maybe 200 horsepower more. And that's because we've got these option wheels, which are 20-inch at the front, 21-inch at the rear. But at the rear, crucially, it's 305mm rear tyres, which is bonkers for a car with 440 horsepower. But what strikes me the most about the newest generation is how livable the car is. Porsche spent a lot of time updating its interior. So inside we've got this now, we've got 10.9-inch screen in the centre, which is touchscreen. The instrument cluster has 2 screens either side of the speedometer in the centre. The speedometer is still an actual needle, which is nice, because at the side you can have your map, you can have G-force and all this sort of stuff. Now we've just been driving about just in regular normal mode there, and this has got the option sports exhaust as well. At the moment the valves are closed, it's really quiet in here. The only thing I will say is that on a long distance, because these tyres are so big, you get so much road noise. It's unreal. You wouldn't expect this. On the motorway, it was so loud, I having to turn up the music just to get rid of it. Now, your typical 911 owner isn't a 20-odd-year-old lad, so comfort has to be up there for customers, and I can report this very, very good in here. I mean, over these bumps here, this is a really badly surfaced road, and it's still comfortable, it's still usable every day, and this could be your only car, and that's the joy of the 911. It is the everyday sports car, even supercar if you will. Anyway, enough of that, let's knock it into sport, and you can just hear the sports exhaust just open up a little bit there. In fact, let's go to manual mode and just use the paddles anyway with the PDK gearbox, and it is sensational. Third, and it's right there at the top, just above 7,000 RPM, where you get that flat 6 note, which is perfect. And it's something I wish they could integrate lower down the rev range, because unfortunately around town it doesn't sound particularly great, but when you do search for it, it is very rewarding. And yes, this 3-litre turbo engine is not lacking in performance at all. It pulls all the way through the rev range. It feels almost naturally aspirated towards the top end with how linear the power delivery is. It's certainly not mistakeably turbocharged in the mid-range though, with that huge punch torque above 2,300 RPM up to around the 5,000 mark. You did get a slightly wider power band in the 991, but can't complain with how it puts the power down here. As I was saying before, it comes with so much grip from the rear tyres. You can be super aggressive and get the power down. You're certainly not going to trouble the chassis on a public road. There is no way you can upset this car with the amount of grip on offer, and even with all the traction control settings on, it never becomes intrusive, it just works with you. You never ever notice it coming in. This car's also been optioned with the rear axle steering, which I didn't think you would feel, but when you chuck it into a corner quite tight and you apply the throttle, you can feel the front end wanting to dart in further, and that's because the rear wheels steer in the same direction as the front wheels in order to pull you in closer. It just pulls in. no matter how fast you're going. And it effectively eliminates understeer. I mean, I've not experienced understeer in this car at all. Yeah, I mean, that was me trying to talk as well. I mean, we'll do some actual driving stuff. It's scary quick. That's why I mean, it doesn't feel like 450 horsepower.
No, that's 550, 600.
Yeah.
That's mental.
But, and this is a slight but, I don't think this car is as fun as its predecessor. Now, I drove the 991 Carrera T. Now, that car felt much more like a 911 than this car does, in the sense that it was much more playful on the edge. You could really feel where the edge of grip was. And you can't really blame Porsche for building a car which is more accessible and faster, essentially, across most roads. But I think some of the character has been lost at the same time. But the turbos make up for all of that. The amount of torque it beggars belief. It's too fast for a back road. I don't know what gear to use. Yeah, the front end just bites. And then the rear just follows suit. It's so nice. It's blisteringly fast. So is it still the cream of the crop? Yes, I think so. Even in this supposed entry level, I think the Carrera S is the best sports car on the market. The 911 still looks the absolute business, still performs the business, and now it has the added luxury and the premium to warrant the price tag. The 911's certainly grown up, but it's still the best in class.